Okay, today I'm going to be bringing you my 4-piece Predator's Mark build with 2-piece Tactician. It's a hostile CC build that revolves around disrupting the enemy team, creating chaos, and has a lot of potential in PvP. The first thing to note is that I have a hybrid composition. I have high firearms, high stamina, and relatively high electronics. I have high skill power, which allows my heal and my disruption sticky bomb to actually have a shorter cooldown, which allows me more utility and more CC in encounters with enemy players, and allows me more survivability due to the fact that my heal is much stronger when paired with my performance mods, etc. With relatively low toughness, I will sustain myself and have fairly tanky setup when I am running into other players if used properly. I'm not running with about 350 to 400,000 toughness like a lot of players. 250 is more than enough for me to survive, and I will demonstrate with that with some gameplay later on. I don't have very much gameplay for you at the end of the video. I'm sorry about that. It's been a very hectic couple of days, but I do have a Banshee build coming soon, similar to this, with a 4-piece Banshee review, and my thoughts on it, and how it functions in PvP, especially considering it's built specifically for that. So the Predator's Mark 2, 3, and 4-piece bonuses are as follows: 10% reload speed, 8% assault rifle damage, 8% SMG damage for the 3-piece, and then for the 4-piece bonus, hit 10 shots without switching targets to make the target bleed for 50% of damage already done by those bullets. This is a very popular PvP set, however it does have a hard counter, which is the immunizer. That's why I'm going to be running flashbang on the sticky bomb, and it's going to help me disrupt said immunizer and still land my shots. Now, I like this set a lot, but it's not my go-to. I think it's very strong, it's very competitive, and I think that a lot of potential, exists within this set to create really cool builds, especially with assault rifles or SMGs, but again, it's not my favorite, even though it is considered top tier, and there will be a lot of players running it in the dark zone. So to move on to exactly what my gear is, I'll talk about all my gear pieces, my mods, my weapons, my talents, my skills, etc., and then I'll kick it over to the gameplay. So on my backpack, I have relatively high electronics. Now, it's not a perfect roll by any means, but it's allowing me to achieve high skill power through a hybrid composition. And then in the major attribute slot, I have armor. It's very important to roll armor on every single piece of gear that you can, as well as all your mods. Now, we do know for a fact that armor shred is coming in the future, in which case it may change up what is most important and what is not most important. However, it's not here now, so as it stands, armor is a major attribute, the most important thing you can run. I have burn resistance, which is nice. I would prefer shock resistance, but again, those minor attributes, especially stuff that's relevant in PvP, such as flame turrets and shock turrets, are going to be very helpful for you when fighting enemy agents. Moving on to my gloves, I have high firearms, I have critical hit chance, assault rifle damage, and critical hit damage. This is kind of the perfect trinity. However, if they do update to enclose enemy armor damage into the metagame where it does affect players, then this is going to change. I would speculate very, very, very drastically, because enemy armor damage will become kind of a main metagame stat. Right now, though, critical hit chance, critical hit damage, and then main weapon damage of the weapon that you're choosing to use is going to be the perfect roll on gloves. Moving on to my holster, it's basically just achieve the highest rolls you can across the board, look for something that has 1,000 in all three categories, and then go for armor as a major attribute. There's not really an exception to that. Moving on to my mask, this is the last Predator's Mark piece that I have. I have a great firearms roll. I have EDR. I would prefer critical hit chance, but I've already re-rolled this mask, so something that you can change easily to achieve more potency in the build is critical hit chance as a major attribute, because the critical strikes will then make your bleed stronger. So it's very important to roll that if you can. I have kill XP and support station healing speed because this is a legacy mask. Now, it doesn't really matter that it's a legacy mask. The support station healing speed isn't really going to be super relevant to my build. I'm not going to be running it. But if you do have legacy items with skill attributes that augment a particular skill that you're going to be running, it's important to put those on for sure.
Supply drops.
Moving on to my 2-piece tack, I have these knee pads with high armor. Again, you're rolling armor on pretty much everything. You definitely want this. I have an electronics roll on these tack pieces to allow me to achieve the hybrid composition that I have. I still have relevant gun DPS, but I also have a very strong heal. And there's a lot of different reasons why it's good to run at least something with electronics in my eyes now, because the scaling is so good and because skill power actually is extremely potent up to about 250,000. So this is why I have these knee pads. I do have 12% enemy armor damage in the minor attribute slot. Like I said, it's not relevant right now, but if they were to implement that sooner rather than later, we don't have a date or anything like that, but if it were to get dropped on us, very soon, I would then have a build that would translate very, very well, and I could reroll a couple key things and have something that has high enemy armor damage with an assault rifle right off the bat and have increased potency in PvP. Moving on to my vest, I have armor and protection from elites. I would prefer actually flat health instead of protection from elites, or perhaps exotic damage resilience, because that helps significantly with enemy flamethrowers or, flame turrets, etc. But protection from elites is fine. I had to reroll for armor. You definitely want that. That's essential on your chest piece. And then it has a high stamina roll overall, which is nice. Again, it's a legacy item because it has the skill attribute, but it's not relevant to the 2 skills that I'm going to be running personally in the Dark Zone. Moving on to my gear mods, I have almost all stamina mods allowing me to achieve and unlock all of my gun talents, which you need 3,800 give or take for. I have one with armor and I have one with critical hit chance. Now I would prefer a second with critical hit chance. A second with armor instead of critical hit chance, but I don't actually have one. I'll be rolling more mods later tonight on my live stream and hopefully getting some of those. But this gets the job done right now. And then moving on to my mask, I have a firearms mod. This is allowing me to unlock the particular gun talents that require 3,800 firearms. It does have armor. Again, very important to roll armor on as many pieces and as many mods as possible. Right now, it's kind of pound for pound the most effective thing in the game. Then moving on, I have a stamina mod with armor in my knee pads, and I also have first aid self-heal performance mods. These are extremely important. Not only are you going to have a huge amount of healing because of overdose built in, the fact that it heals you personally for more, you're also going to have a bunch more because you have 4 mods with 5.5% first aid self-heal, on top of the fact that your skill power is already extremely high. So that's important to roll if you're going to be playing solo. If you're not going to be playing solo, you can roll First Aid Ally Heal if you want to be a little bit more selfless and heal your teammates. You can roll something to do with your skills, but since you're going to be running a Disruption, Flashbang, Sticky Bomb, it's not really like you have offensive skill capability, so you're not going to be going for burst damage in that regard. Moving on to my backpack, I have a stamina mod with health. Again, I would prefer a stamina mod with armor. I will be trying to reroll for a few more of those. That's an easy way to get a little bit more potency out of the build, but I then do have 5.5% first aid self-heal in both your backpack performance mod slots. Moving on to my holster, same thing, 5.5% first aid self-heal in the performance mod slot. That's going to round out the composition, and I'm good to go. Moving on to my weapons, I have a lightweight M4, 14.6k base damage, 19% enemy armor damage. Again, I'm hoping that they implement that sooner rather than later. However, right now there is no ETA on it. I'm just really excited for it. That's why I keep talking about it. Now, this is what I consider to be the new god roll of weapons. A lot of people may disagree, but I, unequivocally regard this as the god roll of weapons in 1.4. That's responsive, unforgiving, competent. Now, what I believe makes this so good is the fact that it's percent weapon damage bonuses. Not only is critical hit, chance less accessible now, which makes deadly significantly less strong, it's also harder for me to hit headshots than it is for some other players. I don't have very good aim. I've never pretended like I do, but as such, with that being something I know about myself, brutal is no longer something that's top tier for me personally. So when I say god roll, I mean for me specifically, responsive, unforgiving, competent is an extremely good roll. When I'm within 10 meters, that's 10 flat percentage weapon damage bonus. When I do face trade, which happens a lot on console, especially on Xbox, when you're trading with the enemies, headshot for headshot. If I go down to 1 health segment, 25% increased damage is huge. I actually have a clip of showing how that affects your damage. And then competent, whenever you pop a skill, since you do have high skill power, you're going to be popping them very frequently. It's going to help you tremendously with that 10% bonus weapon damage for 15 seconds. As my secondary, I do have an SASG. Deadly, vicious, and competent. Now, I would not prefer deadly. I'm going to re-roll that because 15% critical hit damage is not something I consider to be top tier anymore. I'm going to re-roll that for responsive if possible. Responsive, vicious, competent would be fantastic. Vicious is now much better than it was in 1.3. Critical hit chances increased by 10% while having more than 2 segments of health. That's actually, for a large majority of fights, what you're going to be operating within. So vicious will be proc the entire time. It's a very, very good talent. I would advise a lot of people to take another look at it if you haven't already, because now it is top tier. I will re-roll deadly, however. That's something that I definitely don't want on this shotgun. Now, talking about the mods, I have mag size, reload speed, rate of fire. I think that's great. I have accuracy, stability, critical hit chance. I think that's fantastic as well. And I have optimal range, stability, and accuracy. I think it's very important to get optimal range on a shotgun right now, especially using Predator's Mark, because you want to also be doing damage while proccing the bleed. You don't want to just use a shotgun for utility of proccing the bleed. You want to get some damage out of it. Now, with an SASG, it has a high rate of fire, and the bleed of Predator's Mark procs per pellet, not per shot. So it's very important to use a gun like this if you want to proc a bleed extremely quickly on a variety of players. However, it's not essential. It's something that I consider to be very valuable with Predator's Mark, though. With the slated shotgun nerf, however, whatever form that takes, I will be starting to use shotguns after they have nerfed them, specifically because they will no longer, hopefully, be a mainstream gun. So as soon as they've actually enacted the nerf to shotguns, I'll whip one out, and hopefully I can make it effective. and use it in a fun way while not encountering a ton of other people also using shotguns. However, I don't know if that's going to be possible. It's just something in the back of my mind that I really want to do. Talking about the mods on my lightweight M4, I have mag size, critical hit chance, rate of fire. That's a perfectly rolled magazine. For the optic, I have headshot damage, critical hit damage, critical hit chance. That's a very good offensive magazine. Optic that is very strong in the DPS meter category. But in reality, it's going to rely on you hitting headshots to actually get the potency out of that optic. So someone like myself that's not very good at getting headshots might consider, using a different one. For the large muzzle, I have a four attribute muzzle here with headshot damage, optimal range, stability, and reduced threat. I don't really care about reduced threat, but headshot damage is really nice. Again, it really makes me rely on trading those headshots. Optimal range is good, and stability is very helpful with a high RPM assault rifle like the M4 is. And the underbarrel, I have reload speed, stability, and critical hit damage. Pairing the reload speed on the underbarrel with the reload speed on Predator's Mark is very nice. It basically makes my assault rifle function the way an SMG would. I have very fast reload times. I can just keep pumping out bullets. I enjoy it quite a bit. Moving on to my abilities, I have a first aid self-heal with overdose. And as you can see, due to the fact that I have my performance mods with first aid self-heal and my high skill power, I'm healing myself for 139,000 per pop of this heal. And it does have the overdose mod on it, so I can go right to a full overshield from pretty much anywhere on my health bar. That's very potent in PvP. That's why I'm running the hybrid aspect as well as the reduced cooldowns. Then I have my flashbang sticky. Now what this is doing is allowing me to disrupt the enemy and prevent them from using skills. If they're using something that's a hard counter to my Predator's Mark, such as the immunizer, I can then flashbang their immunizer and it is no longer a counter. This also prevents them from using their personal heal, and it also will stagger them. So there's a lot of different CC effects that you're going to be stacking on top of each other, and if used properly, gives you a huge advantage over a player that isn't prepared to deal with all of these. Since you can cleanse a bleed now with a heal, there will be a lot of players that are going to pop that heal as soon as they get that initial bleed. Well, you can just whip out your SASG and reproc that immediately after. You can start to reproc bleeds as well as disable their immunizer constantly, and it actually helps this build not really have a hard counter in the sense that most other builds do. I enjoy it a lot, however, I am not the perfect person to be demonstrating this because my aim, again, is not the best. Since I'm going to be running solo, I ran Recovery Link. This is very helpful. It will auto-proc if you are by yourself. But in a group composition, I would say Tactical Link is much stronger. Right now, Survivor Link is bugged. I'm not sure if this has been fixed or is slated to be fixed any time in the near future. But if you pop Survivor Link, you actually can't be killed during the entire duration, so that kind of needs to be reworked. But Tactical Link is very strong. You can melt through someone that pops a Survivor Link very easily. And I would consider to be the strongest signature now in group play in the Dark Zone. But I will be solo, so I'll be running Recovery Link. Moving on to my talents. Triage, while in a group play perspective, is definitely what you want to be running. Since I am not going to be running in a group perspective, I will be using On the Move instead. But as soon as you have more than 2 players that you're playing with, it's important to switch to Triage and Combat Medic. Since I, again, am not going to be running with someone, I will take off Combat Medic and put on One is None. Since I will try to trade headshots, I will be aiming for the head as much as possible. And then you can have Strike Back and Critical Save. Now, if someone wants to, they can switch out One is None very easily for Precision. And since you are aiming for the head and One is None does sometimes jam your gun, Precision will just allow you to get bonus damage after pulsing the target, since you're not going to be running a personal pulse with Conceal. That's a very viable skill as well. I always run Strike Back now because achieving low health is very easy to do, and you can actually time Critical Save, your med kit and your heal respectively to let yourself reach low health and then get 20% cooldown reduction, which just means more healing and then also more negative status effects on the enemies as you use your Sticky Bomb with Flash a lot more frequently. Critical Save is very valuable. Right now, the icon is bugged. You will not receive an icon when using Critical Save. However, you will receive the mechanical effect and you will take reduced damage. So it's important to run Critical Save. It's a very valuable talent. Moving on, I am going to show my character panel really quickly. My base health pool is 117,000. There's not very much else that I would consider to be super relevant here, except for, I have critical hit chance of 18.5, critical hit damage of 55, headshot damage of 80%, and then moving down to survivability, I have mitigation of 54.15. I would urge everyone to get over 50% before going into the Dark Zone, bare minimum, and then to strive for over 55%. If you can get to 60, that's fantastic, but right now I'm at 54.15, and that's enough to suit my purposes. That's pretty much right there in the sweet spot. So moving on, I'm going to throw it to some gameplay really quick. It's not very much, but hopefully it will give a demonstration of how to use certain different, particular skills to achieve better results. Okay, so here we are, and I am trying to provoke a 1v1 to demonstrate some of the mechanics. Now, I do flag on him, but I don't just actually light into him right away 100% because that wouldn't be an accurate demonstration. I actually do flag really quickly, then I pull back, I let him be aware of that fact, and then we can have a real even-footed 1v1 to demonstrate how the build works. Now, my burn resistance came in clutch for me there. I was not lit on fire. It would have been very detrimental to me had I been, afflicted with that status effect, because fire is very, very potent. So stacking your resistances accurately in the Dark Zone is very powerful. Now, as you can see, I do have a bleed on him. I'm kind of dictating the pacing of this entire encounter. He does pop his signature, so I break line of sight and try not to face trade. I just lead him back through my flashbang sticky bomb so that I can stagger him. I can mitigate some of his damage because he can't be shooting during that time. And I wait for his signature to be gone. Now that it's gone, I can light back into him, proc the bleed again, even though it was just cleansed. And as you can see, I'm really dictating the pacing of this fight. While yes, I understand that my aim is not very good, I never have really claimed that it was some sort of MLG, godsend. I am able to control the pacing of the fight through harmful status effects. As you can see here, again, he's going down on the health bar. When I do pop my heal, I go fully back to an overshield from pretty much wherever I am. And every time he's blowing his heal rotation, I'm just letting back into him, re-procking the status effect, and in the end, I do end up winning this 1v1 because of the pacing control, because of the utility and the status effects. It's a very fun build. It has the potential to go up against multiple agents and survive. Some things to note is that while I may not be super tanky from my toughness meter standpoint, since I am running solo right now and I do have my medical wing signature ready, that will auto proc if they were to kill me. That's a huge boost to healing. Then I can proc my personal heal for 140,000 right up into a full overshield, which for me with a base health pool of 110,000 is worth about 55k. So I will suddenly have a lot more health than they can melt through in a very short period of time, which allows me to face trade, and if I can land those headshots, actually get the kill, despite the fact that, again, my firearms is not super high. I'm not running some sort of glass cannon build. It's a really fun setup. It has a lot of potential in the Dark Zone. If you're in a group, it has a tremendous amount of potential to disrupt the enemy's movements, to hurt their tactics, and to provide you guys with the footing to win the engagement. And it does kill NPCs fairly quickly. When you do proc the bleed, if you do have to take cover and back off, that's 50% of the damage you just dealt. So if you melt down the armor bar of an enemy completely and then do some of the damage to their health, that bleed will often kill them. And you can forget about them. You can kind of shoot an enemy and move on. If they have very low health, just let the bleed kill them, move on, and that will proc health on kill. Bleed kills will definitely, it will activate things like Talented, other sorts of on-kill effects, and it will be really, really valuable to time those things properly. Now, here's another situation where I'm fighting a player. He pops his signature again, and something really interesting to note up here is I actually use this NPC that's chasing him to put my sticky bomb on and let the sticky bomb then be mobile. This is an advanced tactic that I don't use effectively very often, but I really like. If you put your sticky bomb onto the NPC will then run in with your sticky bomb on it, and you can create a mobile sticky bomb that you can run into groups of enemy players if they're pathing correctly, and if the NPC is chasing them and aggroed on them. So as you can see here, Unforgiving is what allowed me to win that fight. I started trading with him, and I was under 1 health segment, which means a flat 25% increased base damage to my weapon just from 1 talent. So that's the reason I won that fight there. That's the reason I was able to face trade with less health. And as you can see, even when I'm soaking damage from a variety of sources, there's tons of NPCs around here. My heal is so strong and has such a low cooldown that I'm able to proc it enough and keep myself alive a lot in a lot of situations where in any other build, without a hybrid composition, I wouldn't be able to do that. So that's going to be about it, guys. Thank you for watching. If you want to support the channel, please check out the links below. I know there wasn't very much gameplay, and it was all solo. However, I do hope there was some, helpful information. Again, I will be doing a Banshee review and other full 4-piece set reviews coming up as time goes on to try and give more information on those if people want to, experiment with them and start running them. I will be doing more build videos and live streams regularly coming up, but it's been a hectic few days, so that's why we had a little bit of a break. So thanks again. Thanks for watching, and as always, guys, have a nice day.